There are a lot of ways to make Fallout New Vegas more difficult. You could make it so you die from taking any damage. You could force yourself to use horrible weapons. You could even only move backwards to get around the world. But what if you wanted to use what the developers intended to make it more difficult? Can you beat Fallout New Vegas' hardcore mode without eating, sleeping, or drinking? First, some housekeeping. Anytime I start a new playthrough in New Vegas, I'll get the opening shots for my beginning of the playthrough spiel, then I'll reload a save I made early last year. I do this because of one of the mods I use, Project Nevada, which you can think of as a base level mod that has things hundreds and thousands of other mods use and require. This mod allows you to change a bunch of different settings: spawn rates for ammo, your hit points based on your endurance skill, your run speed when a weapon is equipped, almost anything. But I prefer the default New Vegas settings. So rather than resetting everything manually every single time, I load an old save, use a console command to change my name and the way my character looks, and go on as if nothing happened. That's why I don't put too much time or effort into the way my characters look. That's it. The curtain is closed. Back to the game. I went all in on what you'd expect me to for special stats. Luck is high because I can hear the roulette table calling me from here. Charisma is a dump stat as always, and the rest are just there. Skills are speech, repair, and medicine. Traits are skilled to boost all stats, and trigger discipline to make gunshots more likely to not miss. Right now, time is of the essence. In hardcore mode, you must keep track of your drinking, eating, and sleeping if you want to survive. It's a fairly basic system. There's a tracker in your Pip-Boy just like you'd see for radiation. Once any of the four, radiation, sleep, hydration, or food, reach 1000, you die. Radiation isn't really an issue in this run, but it's still there. Sleep increases by 1 point every 50 seconds. Food increases twice as fast, at 1 point every 25 seconds. Then there's hydration, that increases by 1 point every 10 seconds. Now what does that mean? It means that because I cannot sleep or consume liquid sustenance in-game, I only have 10,000 seconds of playtime to beat Fallout New Vegas, or else I die. That's 166 minutes, or 2 hours and 46 minutes to beat the game. That's not a lot of time. Thankfully, as anyone who dreads human interaction will be able to tell you, time itself seems to slow down when you're trying to think of a way to respond after someone says something. So those 10,000 seconds don't include dialogue or time spent in your Pip-Boy. I dropped the Vault 13 canteen, and my first stop in this race against the clock was Cazador Canyon to discover the Great Khans early. That was a mistake, a boo-boo if you will, because there's no reason why I had to do this now. I could have easily fast-traveled to Good Springs after I got myself a bunch of weapons and stim packs and made the journey wrapped in the safety of my own arms. Cazadors stung me a couple times. I reloaded a quick save after most of them. Any damage has the potential to be a problem. I also got a surprise hug from a Deathclaw. It managed to swipe my ass a few times as I expertly bobbed and weaved around the rocks while passing through a Viper camp who would distract themselves from me with the monster. That worked out for the most part. The Deathclaw either got bored or died, but the Vipers kept coming after me, and I could tell from their scent that they had good weapons on them. Problem was, they were Viper leaders, and they had solid armor like combat armor or metal armor. My best ranged weapon was only a 10mm pistol. I had a grenade launcher too, but I wanted to conserve as much ammo as I could. Eventually, I managed to decide that killing them was a waste of time, so I sidestepped out of their line of sight, leveled up, you know what I put the skill points into, entered the Canyon of the Red Rock, spoke to nobody, and knew that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to kill people with visibly powerful guns. My throwing spears were broken and wouldn't fly. Stupid fucking game. Good news is, I never leave someone else's home without a blade. My master would never forgive me if I left unarmed. I took more time than I should have, killing a couple different Great Khans. I used sneak attacks on them all. I couldn't risk alerting the others of my actions against the only family they'd ever known. With a sniper rifle that I had no bullets for, and the world's fastest firing gun with an AEK and 9.72 in its name, I returned to Good Springs, bartered briefly with Chet, and began heading for the Strip. I really wanted to stop by Frankie's guns and ammo, but it's a mod location, and killing those within for their weapons felt like cheating for some reason. I killed a few powder gangers littering the road leading northeast towards the Strip, also ended a bunch of puppies hiding out in an overturned semi-truck, and arrived in Sloan like a virus arrives in a new country. Snuffle's leg got the elite treatment option because he played basketball and therefore was far more deserving of my medical treatment than any of the ordinary peasants in the area. That was actually one of the 10 commandments. In times of turmoil, protect the celebrities. Their lives are worth more than your own. Because Lady Luck was disgusted by my performance as of late, I could not kill Snuffles and the few Quarry Junction workers without taking very much damage. The experience their bodies offered wasn't worth the hits I'd take or the ammo spent on them. Outside Quarry Junction, I immediately discovered Bunker Hill and reveled in the rare opportunity to kill an entire family's worth of bark scorpion, which rewarded a nice 9 XP per kill. I wasn't going to work with the Brotherhood at all. Their quest line is too long. Being stripped naked and told to go deal with an NCR soldier eats up valuable time. There's some time to kill as I head towards the strip. My primary concern going into this run wasn't time. Speedrunners have beaten New Vegas without any glitches or exploits in under 30 minutes. Even without any specific speedrun strategy, New Vegas can be beaten in under 2.5 hours if you know what you're doing. My concern was what effects the lack of food, water, and sleep would have on my stats. Speech is what I was concerned about specifically. If you consume no water, you'll see decreases in your endurance, perception, and intelligence as the thirst level increases. The bigger that level, the worse the effects. A lack of sleep will hit agility, intelligence, and endurance. A lack of food, though, that lowers strength, perception, and charisma, and that's bad. Charisma gives bonuses to barter and speech, the only 2 skills that can be used to beat New Vegas without shedding any blood or making the Vault Shed cry. But I planned ahead, or I got lucky that doing no research of any kind worked to my advantage. The lowest a special stat can be is 1. For every point in charisma, barter and speech are raised by 2. The opposite is true as well. If you're suffering from some effect that lowers charisma, barter and speech will be lowered by 2. However, if your charisma is already at 1, there's nowhere for it to go, which means the only thing I thought might cause problems is now a non-issue. By this point, I will have witnessed an encounter between the NCR and Fiends, killed an NCR trooper for their outfit, and entered the strip via Camp McCarran. As always, I went straight for the tops to murder Benny. It was a little tough, sorta. Tough in the sense that I made a difficult decision. I really wanted to use the grenade launcher to take out everyone. It was more than powerful enough for it. But doing so would put my limbs at risk. My toenails are too precious to me for me to put them on the line. With Benny, the chairman, and almost everyone else in the casino area dead and beginning to rot, I wasted a small amount of time by meeting Yes Man. Siding with Yes Man is the quickest way to beat the game. But if speed is what you're after, it makes no sense to meet with him now. You need to get the platinum chip from Benny and remove Mr. House from Earth before you can tell Yes Man to meet you at the Lucky 38. If you were to do the things in the proper order, you'd get the platinum chip, kill House, and call for Yes Man. What I did was get the chip, meet Yes Man, kill House, then return to Yes Man, an extra step if you will. In those wasted minutes, I began doing something odd, weird, something I don't remember doing before, using Maria as an actual gun. Then I stopped by Gamora to run amok in their casino. I required as many caps as I could fit in my secret hiding hole. At my peak, I had almost 5,000 caps ready to be fished out of the woman behind the counter. I would have kept going, but it kicked me out of the game and I couldn't find the guy who would offer me rewards for being so lucky. So I left, got my payment from Mr. House, watched in horror as valuable minutes were massacred and stepped on beneath Mr. House's massive ego. And with speech at 100, I entered the White Glove Society gathering house to mindlessly commit felonies. The AEK was phenomenal for maybe a second and a half. There's a reason I hadn't used it. Maria did an admirable job taking the lives of the cannibals inside the casino. One could even say that Maria killed them with an unparalleled level of style and grace. The perfect weapon for the woman who's purposely starving herself to death. A couple grenades were used to mop up the remaining white gloves inside the eating auditorium that I decided should die. Then, like a father looking for a new significant other because he doesn't love his wife or son anymore, I left to become a boomer. Just before setting off for their territory, I sold everything I didn't need to the gun runners and bought some supplies. I wasn't sure what it was I was after, what gun I wanted, but nothing piqued my interest, so I settled on more ammo for the guns I already had, and knew for a fact that the boomers would be licking my feet before this day is done. The boomers were as boring as the mints at the bottom of my grandmother's purse. I killed Melvin, stim-packed my way through their barrage, killed Pearl, killed a few others on my way out, and was almost 40% of the way towards my own demise. I can't confirm this, but part of me thinks that the rate at which your thirst level increases gets higher the more thirsty you are. I'll come back to that in a bit. Almost all the pieces had been laid on the table, ready to be used to make a puzzle. After getting Veronica as a companion, I quickly got a few things repaired by Mr. Thirsty, and returned to Hidden Bunker to lose my way in the sandy darkness. Veronica got me inside. I met with Ramos, had done everything with the Brotherhood that I had to, dismissed Veronica, killed Ramos, stole his gun, and went back to the Strip. I took the route through Freeside instead of using the monorail at Camp McCarran again. This would likely save time in the long run, as I could fast travel directly to the Strip's north gate. Crippled after a fight inside the Tops, I spoke to Yes Man again for some stupid fucking reason. Mr. House was still alive. There was no reason to talk to him yet. Frustrated at the amount of time I'd wasted backtracking through the Tops with a broken leg and no way to fix it, I returned to Good Springs, hobbled along the one road leading through town, got a farewell gift from Doc Mitchell in the form of medical assistance that I overpaid for, and my thirst was already up to 600. To give some insight, it was at 370 at 9 minutes 12 seconds into this recording. After about 16 more minutes, it was at 600. Maybe I'm just not understanding this. Thirst increases by 1 point every 10 seconds. That's 6 points per minute. Assuming all 16 minutes are gameplay, no loading screens or dialogue or inventory management, that's a theoretical total of 96 points. 16 times 9 is 96. How the hell did it go up 230 points in 16 minutes? I couldn't tell you, but after seeing how dramatically it increased, I became worried that I, like all of you watching this, will run out of time. I immediately returned to the Lucky 38, threw knives into Mr. House. Yes, I bought throwing knives specifically for Mr. House. Told Yes Man to join me. He violently spasmed himself into Mr. House's former living vessel, and I told him a certain someone could bite the dust. I'd say the actual words, but I'm a little concerned that saying something like that in these 2020 times would get me put on a government list. I hadn't gone anywhere near the El Dorito submarine sandwich shop yet. The closest location I'd found was 188 Trading Post. It was surprisingly dark and lonely in the hills southwest of the station. My only companions were dead grass and the plants I've learned to be cactuses of some extreme variety. The NCR were less than enthused by my arrival at the station. What I think made them really mad was when I started launching live grenades at them. They didn't worry for very long. The four inside woke up after I powered the Lucky 38. I'd planned on letting them live, but their mass awakening startled me. Being startled is a satisfactory reason to blow up a group of soldiers. And there's that government list again. With the stage set, all that remained was to travel to the Hoover Dam to finish the fight. I checked my hydration shortly after my arrival. 942 out of 1,000. It went up more than 300 points in less than 15 minutes. Time was not on my side, it would seem. Supplies were limited, morale was low. The dead bodies I'd made were disheartening to those I hadn't killed yet. Yes Man comforted me with a plan of attack. Destroy the generators. The lack of water in my body was beginning to show signs of wear and tear, primarily in the form of an annoying flashing red icon on my HUD. Soon enough, I emerged outside the office, back atop the Hoover Dam. I paid no mind to the battles being waged on the dam itself. My life was almost over. Thirst was at 962. All those mad minutes I did last year have paid off big time. I knew for a fact that I had only moments before I would drop dead, ending the story of Hardcore Carol forever. But like I said, I knew that speech would be unaffected by my advanced dehydration. As long as I didn't accidentally agree to battle the legate to death, I could convince him to stand down, talk General Oliver out of committing suicide by the courier, and I beat Fallout New Vegas' hardcore mode without eating, drinking, or sleeping. There is one last thing to attend to. Those of us who know a thing or two because we've seen a thing or two know what's going on during the ending slideshow. There's a man behind the screen reading it. What I wanted to know is what happens if your thirst was at 999 right as you ended the game. Would it tick over to 1000 and kill you during the ending? No. What it does do though is break the game. Your character cuts off the narrator by clearing their throat, then he shuts up and never says another word. There are a lot of weird ways to play Fallout New Vegas. You could restrict yourself to the worst weapon in the entire game, put no points into the relevant special stats or skills, and play through New Vegas on the hardest difficulty without healing. Or you could do something even more ridiculous. Can you beat Fallout New Vegas as a Necromancer? No, of course you can't. Don't be stupid, that's a dumb idea. I feel comfortable saying that because of how incredible the original idea was. See, what I was gonna do was use a mod that let me have both an infinite number of companions and the ability to make anyone a companion. The mod entitled JIP Companions Command and Control seemed to fit the bill with its option for so-called unlimited companions, but it actually caps out at 16, which is countless orders of magnitude lower than what I needed. The plan was to make Easy Pete my companion, then every time he died, I'd spawn in 2 more to take his place. When they died, 4 would replace them, then 8, then 16, then 32, until hopefully I had more than 1,000 Easy Petes in the greatest army ever conceived. Unfortunately, it was not meant to be, but I liked the idea so much that I dug its lifeless corpse out of the dumpster I left it in and mangled it around inside my head box until something usable grew out of it. Then, I got it. I play as a Necromancer, one of those dark magic guys that can bring people back from the dead. It'd be like that companion-only video, except my only companions will be corpses. Where the Necromancer part comes in is that I use the Resurrect command on any dead creature, make it my companion, and when it dies, it's gone for good. This probably isn't the best concept for a Can You Beat video, but it's what I came up with on short notice. The Dead Space playthrough I finished earlier this week turned out to be far more mentally exhausting to write a script for than I anticipated, most likely due to how linear that game is. Anyway, my special stats were aimed at increasing the nerve of my companions, which is based on your charisma, being able to take damage, and getting special points. Despite the points I put into charisma, I was not going to rely on speech to complete the game. My soulless puppets would carry me to the finish line. My first stop outside of Doc Mitchell's house, after selling my trash and noticing that a bighorner can be a possible companion, was the road leading to Sloan. There's a couple dead guys out by an RV that God left there just for me. Thanks, Todd, you're the best. It's Christmas in July in the Mitten Squad household. Believe it or not, there were actually 3 lies in that sentence. A powder ganger killed his brother, I brought a caravan guard back from the dead, played around with the menu system. It's kind of intimidating at first, but once you get used to it, it's not so bad. Also, I set the difficulty to very hard to make up for the fact that I could have up to 16 companions at once, shoot the barrels, interrupt an argument, negotiate with the people who don't know they're secretly my hostages, and let the battle for Goodsprings begin. I left my powder ganger at Gene skydiving because, at this point in the playthrough, I wasn't sure if the factions a companion is a part of would have any impact on how I interact with other factions. Like, if I had a Legion companion, would an NCR trooper attack me on sight? No, that's another stupid question. They don't without the mod, why would they do it with it? The Goodsprings Impromptu Militia successfully fought off the powder gangers. Cheyenne died, which I considered to be a sign from a higher power. I reanimated my corpses, felt powerful as all with these 4 by my side, and pressed towards Prim. Stealing from some convicts and their eventual demise added more numbers to my ranks. Soon enough, I had a conga line of dynamite-wielding maniacs trailing behind me. I ditched the Prim plan and decided to make my powder gangers fight against those in the prison. We're skipping the nuclear winter movie and going straight into Civil War. Things got a little out of hand, just like the dynamite when explosions started erupting from the distraught flooring tiles crying out for help inside the prison. Eddie and his boys put up a hell of a fight. It took longer than I expected to conclude. I wasn't sure if that was because of the difficulty or because of the power difference between named NPCs and unnamed NPCs. Not much long after this, I swapped over to hardcore mode solely to let companions die after they die. In the beginning, I was expunging their existence from this realm with a console command, but that got real annoying to do in the midst of battle. Scrambles, Eddie, and a guard joined my cause, as did a gecko hunter and, more importantly, a rad roach. The NCR trooper just outside Prim eased the part of my worried mind still wondering about companions belonging to conflicting factions. My lovelies ravaged the Jackal gang members inside the F*** you house. I noticed an issue with the Resurrect command, where sometimes a dead man will return to the land of the living without clothes. Really makes you wonder what happens after you die. On the path towards Mojave Outpost, My gaggle of mercenaries destroyed a few rad scorpions with impressive swiftness. They would be fine additions to my collection. The only problem is, you gotta be careful when you bring them back. Their minds haven't synced with reality yet, and they're still living in the past, meaning they're immediately hostile. That goes away after covering their body in the green and melting their mind. And look at this, when you draw a weapon, your companions draw their weapons, but the little rad roach just flutters his wings. I love everything about this. It was at the foot of the hill I enabled hardcore mode. I bought ammo and beverage inside the outpost bar. It got a little crowded in there. Rad scorpions really have no concept of personal space. My personal army of undead engaged in an amazing fight to the death with the innocent family of ants on the road to Ivanpah Lake. The mommy died last. She got to watch it all. Then I performed CPR on the ants and recruited them to my cause. If you haven't been paying attention, I've now got 3 rad scorpions, 2 giant ants, a gecko, a stolen puppy, and a rad roach, all as my companions. This is the best mod ever. Well, almost. You can also make birds your companions, but they just fly away and don't do anything, which makes sense since they're not real anyway. I expected the gang members camped out in the ruins of the Mitten road stop to put up a good fight. I usually have a tough time with them. I guess with a dozen things attacking them at once, they never really stood a chance. I knew where to find a real challenge though, Vulpes and Cactus and his legion followers. I stuck my hands in their pockets instead of just ordering an immediate barrage of death to be launched their way. It was such a decisive victory that I went searching for ways within Project Nevada to make the game harder. But I didn't really find anything. All the settings would apply to both my companions and enemies. Seemed like it would only make fights longer, not so much harder. I had to dismiss a few things to make room for Vulpes. He was coming with me whether he wanted to or not. A big corner, with its dying breath, asked me to force life back into it to extend its eternal suffering. I happily obliged. We all stayed the night in a little cabin. Don't ask about the sleeping arrangements, you don't want to know. I lost both the Big Corner and Cheyenne to a mountain climbing adventure. I didn't see how it happened, but I can only assume that they blindly followed me off a cliff and violently plummeted to their undoing. I tried to pickpocket Victor to make him angry. Didn't work. Things got a little cramped inside the mouth of Dinky the dinosaur, and I was off to RepCon to deal with some ghouls. I temporarily had a glowing one as a companion because of how f***ing cool that is, but the radiation, especially in a hardcore playthrough, would have been much too large of a pain in my ass to be constantly worrying about. Inside the space exhibit building, my heart broke. A pair of feral ghouls ripped my little rad roach to shreds. That hurt. Hurt a lot, actually. It wasn't fair. He never did anything to anyone. He was too slow. As recompense for the misdeeds of their cousins, I had my friends lay waste to all the ghouls inside the chamber of Jason Bright. It was so great to watch all those skinless f***s get what they deserved. Before leaving, I channeled my inner Moses and brought Jason back from the dead alongside a few of his followers. See, I had me a plan. That plan failed when I couldn't put any of the party hats I found on my companions. Luckily, Plan B was almost as good. The Brotherhood of Steel would become victims of an underground home invasion by someone they accidentally let inside. And what could be more beautifully ironic than an army of the things they hate the most being the ones to send them into extinction? I had a few ghouls, but I needed more. I needed the super mutants atop Black Mountain, but curiosity got the better of me when a rare opportunity lifted its dress and presented itself to me. I had an army. When have I ever been more properly equipped to take on a baby Deathclaw? Never. The baby got beaten to death, then resuscitated with one other that had been dead for God knows how long. I didn't take the third because I didn't want to be greedy, then realized that was stupid. After what I just went through in Skyrim, I deserved to be almighty, which was why a fully loaded Deathclaw was robbed of its life. I had become unstoppable. If Tabitha could have seen what was coming for her, all of this unwillingly working together as a cohesive unit, she would have killed herself. You might be asking, is this overkill? Have I taken things too far? You ain't seen nothing yet. A second Deathclaw left a permanent hole in my team when it ripped one of my scorpions from me. Now the Nightkin and such, sitting atop the mountain, they were worthy of fighting my army. The Nightkin sniper was tremendously effective with its missile launcher, and I could do nothing to stop him. I noticed both Eddie and bodyguard guy looked pretty exhausted. It was clear they were tired of this life. I gave Eddie a party hat to cheer him up, gave the coyote a missile launcher, had a motherfucker of a time navigating through the crowd I'd brought inside a building, watched as Tabitha died, brought her back, invited her to join me, found Hidden Valley, and remembered that I needed Veronica, as my lockpick skill wasn't high enough to pick the lock. She would be a tool, nothing more. She got me inside, I dismissed her, called on my comrades to follow me down into the bunker, and got crazy. Not in the way you're thinking. All these idiots blocked my path and wouldn't let me pass. The only way I got through them was by manipulating the fundamental elements of the universe by quick saving and quick loading. It happened a second time down in the real part of the bunker, which was a problem because the Deathclaw was blocking everyone's way. A few got through. Paladin Ramos was granted permission to sit at the cool kids table, and everyone I'd come to know and love over the last few hours got torn apart by the Brotherhood of Steel. Had the Deathclaw, Super Mutants, and Tabitha gotten through, maybe they would have stood a chance. But Jason Bright, or the missile launcher I taped to a dog, were never meant to take on the bunker-dwelling freaks. After I backtracked to the bunker entrance, a few more paladins survived my onslaught for longer than they should have. I regretfully dismissed the giant ant, made the Deathclaw sit in the naughty corner. It made horrendously graphic images of itself with the rad roach. I couldn't let that go unpunished. Got more of my squad, I hate using that word outside of my own name, inside the bunker, and a proper war broke out. It was much more entertaining to watch than it was the first time around. It didn't turn out any better though. I'd lost pretty much everyone by the time everyone but me had died. Tabitha's death probably hit me the hardest. Seeing something so pretty cut down in its prime is never easy. I died too. Despite having some of the toughest creatures in the wasteland watching my back, I could not successfully sack the Brotherhood of Steel bunker. Looking to make myself feel better, I reloaded a save, entered the Bison Steve Hotel, let everyone have some fun with the new toys they found inside. Chris Haversam was as worthless as ever. I only kept him around to torment him anyway. His constant fear provided me with moral support. From there, it was off to Boulder City to pay a visit to Jessup and the Great Khans. Private P was offended when I threw a spear at the war memorial. The giant ant had him for lunch. I woke him up from the endless dream of nothing, watched as the Great Khans put up far more of a fight than I would have expected. The coyote fell before them. Jason Bright and Eddie dealt the final blow to Jessup in tandem, and Jessup came along with me on my way to the strip to find Benny. Just outside of Boulder City, I used the command and control part of this mod to send the baby Deathclaw after Victor. That metallic cowboy managed to evade the Deathclaw for a full minute, but I finally had the dream team assembled. We strolled towards the strip like we owned the planet. A Legion raiding party was sent after us. It was just a thrashing in every possible sense. The damage everyone except for me took was worth it. A legionary assassin was now along for the ride. The dream team had become a lucid dream team. It just keeps getting better and better. I lacked the caps required to buy my way onto the strip. Victor was gifted the eternal sleep by one of his brothers. Their time in hell was cut short when I snagged one of the Securitrons back into my arms. Our first stop on the strip was Gamora, and it was everything I hoped it would be. Watching Deathclaws and super mutants and giant ants and ghouls murder everyone in their way was glorious to witness. That said, the White Glove Massacre was pretty great too, mostly because it started off in a more well-lit area where I could see everything. Chauncey got tag-teamed by a ghoul and a Deathclaw. I don't even know what happened to Margarine. I can only assume that Chris Haversam ate her. Then there was the Tops. The Tops was the WrestleMania of terrorist attacks committed by a wizard with an undead army of creatures against casino owners. Benny died well, certainly better than anyone in a checkered suit should have. With an invitation to discuss the future of the strip from Ambassador Crocker, I entered the NCR embassy thinking I was going to side with the NCR. A yes man ending seemed too easy for this playthrough. Had to go deal with the Kings, not what I had in mind, so my army killed everyone inside the building. No NCR for me. They killed the troopers outside too, no reason to let them live. Same goes for the nerds in the office, and if the NCR there are dead, it wouldn't be fair to leave any survivors at NCR Outpost. I went against the grain and opted for killing Mr. House as well. It was the Legion who I would be siding with. The unicycle machines protecting Mr. House were politely escorted somewhere safe. I entered the control room, had Benny beat the real Mr. House to death, rambled my way out to Cottonwood Cove, met Little Caesars, was sent to the weather station, and learned the hard way that 3 is a crowd. It wasn't as bad as the Brotherhood bunker, but it was still annoying. The Protectrons harassing me were destroyed while I dealt with the power generators. I made my escape, and I got my ass blasted by the ghost of Mr. House. The sentry bots escaped from their chambers and wreaked havoc on every single person I brought down there. Thankfully, my boys were enough to overpower all 3 sentry bots. The damage they'd caused to my team meant there were a few openings for newcomers. I brought the 3 of them along. The one that was slow in the head remained in the station after I left. I wasn't about to go back down there, so I dismissed it, returned to Caesar, and made my way northeast to Nellis Air Force Base. I had George killed so I could drag him through the boomer bombardment while his mind fought every step of the way. But his body, under my control, wouldn't let him until his legs got blown off by one of the missiles striking the earth. And that's where I'd leave him, condemned to suffer for all of eternity in no man's land, stuck between life and death, until his mind could take the constant pain no more, and whatever sanity he had left faded away, leaving him in a state of delirium until the end of time. I died instead. The second time, oddly enough, I barely got hit by any shrapnel, and George was just fine too. To make up for that, after meeting Pearl and retrieving the army I'd left at the shack as to not get them all killed while I approached Nellis, I sent George to land the first strike that would spark a war between the boomers and Mitten Squad. He didn't f***ing die there either. Lady Luck had feelings for George, it seemed, so I dismissed him. He went back to Jimmy's well. Not sure why he went there, but whatever. I got a Mr. Gutsy on my side. Dream Team 3.0 was assembled, featuring a Benny who really didn't want to be there. The remaining boomers were murdered. I got my legs blown off by the same blast that ended Pearl's life. Got healed up by Mitch, returned to Caesar, failed to deal with the white gloves, and had to go blow up the Brotherhood bunker. I knew I couldn't fit everyone down there to do what needed to be done. I momentarily stripped my team down to the bare essentials: Benny, the Sentry Bot twins, Tabitha, Ranger Ghost, and a boomer guard with a missile launcher and power armor. I didn't use them to lead a crusade against the Brotherhood. Instead, they would be my insurance policy. I would force them to take every bullet for me after I picked up all 3 passcodes off the Brotherhood kingpins and activated the bunker's self-destruct sequence. And, amazingly, something worked out in my favor. I got the bunker to do the big die. Everyone on my side survived. Caesar had a headache, which I could fix, but it wouldn't be cheap. I mean that literally. The surgical tools were 1,300 caps, and I was 1,200 caps short. I was going to kill the doctor and everyone inside the hospital, then just pick up the tools off her dead body. Turned out, that was unnecessary. Jessup had been hoarding all the weapons for himself. I took a few, sold them, got the tools, had the doctor and her friends killed anyway for the inconvenience, saved Caesar's life, and had a monster of a task to complete: assassinating NCR President Kimball. My Deathclaw was having none of that guy's shit. I was worried about this, mainly because I was supposed to remain undetected and inconspicuous while the president's bird landed, and being surrounded by, all this would draw unwanted attention. But your companions don't matter when it comes to being detected. If your enemies can't see you, by the rules of peekaboo, they can't see your companions either. I got my Deathclaw into position, sicked him on the president, and all-out war began. At least, that's what you thought would happen. Deathclaw accidents are a common occurrence in the wasteland. Nobody batted an eye when the Deathclaw ripped the president in half. They only cared when it was obvious that I was the one giving the orders. Then things went to the next level, just not for very long. It only took about a minute for everyone willing to fight back against their own death was no longer a threat. I said goodbye to Chris Haversam and the clinic guard I stole from that doctor who had the surgical tools. Got probably 4 or 5 NCR Rangers to join the final team that would lead the assault on Hoover Dam. Returned to the fort. For some reason all hell broke loose, and I had no earthly idea what caused it. Did I up a command that stripped the Rangers of their faction? The remove from all factions command can have disastrous consequences if applied to yourself. Did I accidentally apply that to myself some time ago? And how would I even figure out when I did it? No, I just forgot to take off my NCR armor I'd been given for the assassination. Caesar was pleased. I met the legate. I healed everyone on the Ultimate Dream Team version 4.0 that could be healed. The sentry bots couldn't. I used a console command to wait until morning, just so the second battle of Hoover Dam would be visible, and the end began. Predictably, this didn't go as planned. You might have expected to see the death claws and the robots and everyone else ripping and tearing and shooting and smashing their way through all the NCR forces atop the dam. Well, that didn't happen. I couldn't even find the sentry bots, and there were what were most likely pathfinding issues, leading to nobody following me into battle the way they used to. Also, quite a few of them were crippled, which wasn't fixed by healing. For the first segment of the fight atop the dam, I absorbed all the punishment, reached the halfway point myself, healed everyone, was amazed that one of the giant ants was still alive after all this time, and the second half was much better. Everyone got their shit together. The sentry bots cared enough to show up, and it was a proper war. I even added 2 power armor-clad NCR heavy troopers to my team before entering the power plant. The lighting in there sucked, but everyone did their part as best they could. Probably would have been smart on my part to insist that they use ranged weapons instead of melee weapons, but everything about me is a mistake, so it's fine. I had a handful of crashes just before confronting General Oliver, as well as several more right after the fight began. An old and familiar problem rose like a phoenix to f*** me to death right at the very end of the game. That problem, from my New Vegas Companions Only video, was back. I still don't know exactly what the problem was. It seemed to be that Oliver doesn't immediately retreat back into his office. You'd normally fight through the best the NCR has to offer until you reach him. Then you kill him, everyone with him, and the legate shows up, and the game ends. But Oliver would simply not die. He was completely immune to all forms of damage. Even my powers as a god were not enough to kill him. Using the kill console command on him did nothing. He'd become too powerful. In the companion-only video, I went back in time, sided with Yes Man, and beat the game that way. Due to time constraints, and this being such a clusterfuck of an idea, and not even being a real challenge in the first place, I didn't do that. I successfully failed on purpose, and did not beat Fallout New Vegas as a Necromancer. There are a lot of fun challenges you could try your hand at in Fallout New Vegas. Restrict yourself to certain weapons, remove vital aspects of the core gameplay, install a mod to take a hands-off approach to wasteland destruction. But what if you wanted something more permanent? Can you beat Fallout New Vegas with only one life? This challenge probably works the way you thought it would. If I die at any point in the playthrough, I start the entire game over. Simple as that. But if you've seen my videos, you know that I'm a fan of the cheese technique. I usually rely heavily on the quick save feature to save scum my way through the entire game, which is why I decided that I would only reload a save if the game crashed. My special stats were fairly standard. I drained charisma, put points into endurance, intelligence, and luck, then spread out the rest to have a decent selection of perks to choose from. Picked barter, guns, and medicine as my tag skills. If you wanted to play it safe, you go for speech to avoid confrontation, but relying on speech all the time is boring. What's the point of doing a permadeath run if you pussy out and talk your way out of a fight? Barter was only there to afford supplies early on. My traits were skilled to provide a small boost to all skills, and fast shot, because why not? It's the opposite of trigger discipline, which is what I usually take. After looting Pink Mouth's house for all his toys, I went outside, made a fail-safe YOLO save, sold what I didn't need to chet, bought myself a silenced weaponry, and entered the saloon looking for a good time. And by God did I find it. With my only holy point round, I gently sent the settler to the afterlife, draped his body over the toilet as an homage to myself, borrowed this cup's handgun, blew apart their cousins outside in the firefight of the century, and got to work haggling with the barkeep. You might ask yourself why I'm buying food. Well, that's because I'm also playing on hardcore mode, but I'm not, good at video games, so I'm only playing on normal instead of very hard. From there, I did the usual Ghost Town prom night song and dance involving failing to convince Trudy to join us, failing to convince Deputy Dynamite to join us, getting some Tylenol from the doctor, and blowing those convict f***s to Kingdom Come. I used the grenade launcher Jesus got me for my rebirth to do most of the work on the Powder Gangers. Corn on the Joe was for some reason sitting back, not helping his brothers. I gave him a hand, leveled up, did the patented carry the naked corpse to the door so you're not over encumbered technique, sold the remainder of my garbage, and set off for the rest of the game. I was more careful with the powder gangers than I should have been, probably. The varmint rifle I got from Sunny Delight was more than enough to end their life, but you can never be too careful when living as Professor YOLO. The puppies were similar. The baby was tougher than you'd expect. Not that it mattered, it still looked kinda like this by the time I was done with it. Once I'd fixed Snuffle's leg and stole some ammo from the prospectors for daring to interrupt me, I spent most of my 10mm ammo on a few bark scorpions for some easy experience. Leveled up, put the points into guns, explosives, and survival. Tried in vain to shoot a few super mutants from 190 yards away with a handgun. The issue there was that I could see nothing, so I left to stew in my own failure and continue on through the Valley of Bowser. Deathclaws, whatever. I've done this with my feet. I've done this with a Guitar Hero controller. It's not hard. Closer to the strip, I got lucky when an NCR soldier got himself turned into toast. The stench of the burning death on his uniform didn't bother me either, so I snagged it, looted a few fiend bodies, and went all John Wick on these six-legged jackasses hiding out in this building. I also went down into their hidey hole to see what all the fuss was about. The fuss was the giant pregnant ant queen in the basement. The babies in her stomach did a good job of taking the brunt of the explosive damage from the 19 sticks of dynamite I chalked under her. She also spasmed for quite a while after she died, probably the leftover ants in her tummy causing a ruckus. In a moment of stupidity, I swapped out a good shotgun for a really terrible shotgun that did like 10 damage total. Didn't know that at the time though. I learned me that real good when I tried to help a drug addict with her addiction problem, and my shots barely tickled her. Inside Camp McCarran, I perused the humans for anyone offering supplies in exchange for the local currency or equipment of equal value. Found this cute little bounty hunter, entered the strip via the NCR Thomas. Somehow this freak knew I had guns on me, and I entered the tops, ready to make the real game begin. As is tradition, sometimes, when I feel like it, I got myself some chips and gambled my way to the upper echelon of society. Only took me about 15 minutes to earn 10,000 caps and get kicked out of the casino. Before taking the fight to Benifer, I traveled out to the Gunrunners to acquire me some new toys. I also met this Oreo Monroe piece of shit who was rude to me after I broke into his house. The old bastard knew his way around a blown off leg. I had some sort of an aneurysm right after he died. I assumed it was nothing, left, and arrived at the Gunrunners. I was hoping for an affordable, child-friendly sniper rifle of some sort, but they were sold out. One day, the delightful children from down the lane are gonna get what's coming to them for stealing guns from hard-working Americans. So, I settled on a battle rifle, an M1911 because what's a video game without a 1911, a set of combat armor, a Remington 870, and a couple thousand caps worth of ammo. I would need all the help I could get to take down Benny. Unlike other playthroughs, I only had one shot at him. Armed to the teeth with enough bullets to take down a baby giraffe, I returned to the strip, ready to execute my plan. I had almost everything I needed. I was just lacking one key ingredient: lingerie. See, what you didn't know, but might have noticed, is that my character's purple hair and pink skin was originally intended for this guy. That didn't really work out. The idea seemed better suited for Fallout 4 than New Vegas, but I used the character anyway. I've explained this before. My New Vegas is almost as fucked as my Fallout 3. I can't start a new game, so anytime I start a new playthrough, I load a save I made right after I got up from Doc Mitchell's bed, which is also after I disabled most of the additional features from what's it called? Project Nevada mod. Things like sprinting and bullet time and getting perks at every level are disabled, and any damage or level modifiers are set to their default vanilla values. The only thing I use is the inventory sorter. Where was I? Oh right, getting a nice bra for Professor YOLO. Turns out, lingerie doesn't increase your luck, which is what I wanted to run this casino out of business. I still had luck of 9 though, so once more I gambled until I won enough chips to be kicked out, cashed out, noticed an interesting looking stripper, entered the tops again, and handed over all my weapons. You, just like the chairman, fell for my trap. I was going to systematically and metaphorically disembowel every chairman in this godforsaken casino. Sneaking is the name of the game. Unfortunately, I put almost no points into sneak. It would appear that what I lack in hair, I also lack in my ability to plan ahead. The small upside to this massacre was that I had a stealth boy, hollow points, and enough points in guns to be able to take down Benny in a few shots. I would have let him f me and leave in the dead of night, but the confirmed bachelor perk doesn't let that happen. With the platinum chip in my invisible pocket, I met Yes Man, returned to the gunrunners who were temporarily out of order for some reason, was interrupted by Malcolm Holmes, he got what was coming to him, and I realized what I had to do. I wanted the prettiest puppy in the window, the medicine stick. The only problem is that it's almost 30,000 caps. That meant I had to do something I've never done before. What is that thing I had to do? That's right. But to do that, I had a couple stops to make, the first of which was Prim. I witnessed the clash of the titans on my way there. I'm a little glad the squirrel won. I wouldn't have been able to bring myself to kill the roach. Before paying a visit to Johnson and Mr. Nash, I entered the Bison Steve Hotel to gain some easy experience in the form of convicts and collect as many sellable weapons from their corpses as I could. I have a battle rifle and combat armor. Death was never an option for me. The deputy was rescued from his vacation. He disappeared right before my eyes as I stood there for an hour, and I finally met the legendary Mr. Nash. Got myself a couple hundred caps from him, and I thought to myself, hey, why not kill them all? The idea was to go in all quiet-like and take them out one at a time with a couple well-placed torso evaporating bullets. The first guy went down smooth, but the second one didn't. There were a comedy of errors that occurred here that ultimately led to everyone charging at me and me having to put them down. To be honest, I was more concerned with the 308 ammo I'd used to kill them than the ending of their lives. On the plus side, it leveled me up, which allowed me to dump some points into barter to make it easier to get that special gun. From there, I continued my journey in one of the 4 directions, killed some guys in the Viper hideout, killed a bunch of bugs to accomplish 2 things. I wasn't going to use this gun later on in the playthrough, or in any situation where I was concerned about the possibility of my own demise, so I used it on the ants to get excess ammo out of my system and to get more experience. Then I made the most important discovery in the history of Fallout New Vegas since that reload glitch that lets you fly. These ants are so light, you can send them soaring for like a mile. It wasn't long before I found myself at the bar, where phase 2 of the plan unofficially began. I sold the weapons I didn't need to up my cap count once more, returned to the strip, entered the Lucky 38, discovered that Mr. House has gotten sloppy in his old age. Somehow Vulpus managed to get inside the casino. House wasn't too impressed by me almost not giving him the platinum chip. I would have gone all the way with the old man to see if he'd send every Securitron after me, but I wasn't confident that I'd be able to survive that, so I agreed to go down to the basement instead. It was then the real game began. I entered the real basement where Mr. House keeps his body. I considered knocking him out with the golden gloves. Then I decided to just let him exist on life support, forever trapped in the potty built with no way to die. Then, in the Ultralux, I laid the foundation for phase 3. Back to the blackjack table I went. This one went surprisingly well, quicker than the others. I began doubling down anytime I had to draw another card. With luck of 9, it's more likely than not that you'll beat the house and win 400 caps in the process. The Ultralux actually let me win far more caps than I would have thought they would have. I got 15,000 caps before I finally got that achievement and got kicked out. Well, they asked me to stop gambling, so naturally, I went up to the hotel portion and kinda killed everyone. Then I left, went back to the gunrunners with 32,000 caps, and bought myself the medicine stick, all the ammo they had for like everything I had, as well as a silencer for my 1911, and decked out with the best equipment I could afford. I headed to 188 Trading Post to acquire a sentient tool and more ammo from an under-the-bridge arms dealer. Somehow, in the dead of night as I struggled to find the right bunker, Veronica almost ate the big one. I'm not sure if it was the souls of the scorpions I killed earlier or some sort of an asthma attack from all the dust. Regardless, she got me inside. I never had to interact with the Brotherhood again and returned to Goodsprings to take the stupid route to Red Rock Canyon. I had a slave, combat armor, and arguably the best rifle in the game. If I was ever suited to take on cazadors, it was now. The medicine stick certainly proved its worth, ending young cazadors with a single shot, if you're using hollow points, and the big lads in 2 shots. I'm not all that sorry to say that Veronica didn't survive the trip. That was a lie, sort of. I'd given her all my food and beverage to carry, so I had to play connect the dots to figure out what was worth carrying and what was worth discarding in her rotting corpse. Speaking of things that didn't survive, I almost didn't survive passing through this little settlement. They used hyena tactics and surrounded me on all sides before they began their assault. I might have been exaggerating when I said I almost didn't survive, but this was the closest I'd yet come to dying. To make myself feel better, I did away with a few bighorners, then arrived at Red Rock, killed one person because he asked what I was doing, went back to Freeside, and began my journey to Nellis. I made sure to use the most powerful weapon I had to end George. I got crippled and lost half my health on the way to the border. Met Pearl, foolishly forgot to put enough points into speech to pass this check, and got to work doing you-know-what to you-know-who. The doctor gun was so powerful that I could kill Raquel and a boomer in power armor, both in 1 shot each. The only thing left to do from there was to go back to the Ultra Lux, because I still hadn't made them extinct yet. With my gun's skill at 100 and all the weapons I had, this was almost too easy. It was a beautiful annihilation. Yes Man rolled over to the Lucky 38, Consul commanded himself inside the shell of Mr. House. I told him how I really felt about all the factions, decided that the NCR president could die, and rambled over to the El Dorado substation to activate the power flipper. The NCR soldiers guarding the place never stood a chance. Before the second battle of Hoover Dam began, I purchased a few last-minute pieces of supplies from Doc Mitchell, thanked him for all he did, had to kill a settler because he overheard the ruckus going on inside the house on the hill, and was finally at the Hoover Dam. Given the nature of this run, you might have expected me to spam stim packs and run past all the Legion soldiers, but that's not what I did. Again, a big gun means big fun. If I landed a critical shot, which was more likely now than ever, thanks to the finesse perk I took earlier, the Centurions would go down in 1 headshot. Without the bonus, they only took 2 shots. Inside the offices, I swapped over to a double-barrel shotgun with slugs, which made quick work of the 2 shiny boys. With the Hoover Dam powered generators rendered impotent, Quartermaster Barron put up a good fight until I blew his head off. The Legion soldiers went down like the sacks of shit they are. I checked just to make sure I was still in hardcore mode and on normal, and exited the offices back onto the dam itself. With several more lives ended and another level under my belt, I entered the Legate's camp, ready for the real game to begin. I was a bit worried that I only had about 30 shots left in my big boy gun. I still had the anti-material gun I got off a Centurion, but it fires so slow and is not great in close quarters unless you stick the barrel into someone's esophagus before you pull the trigger. That said, I was still glad I had it. It made dealing with the tower guys much easier than it would have been otherwise. I used the grenade rifle I borrowed from Pearl to startle the Praetorian guards. It didn't really work all that well, so I finished them off with the medicine stick, killed a cow for good luck, and approached the Legate. Just like with every situation in this playthrough, I had to be smart. I only had 1 shot at this, and if the Legate knocks you down with his big stick, you're pretty much done for. I laid down a mine, knowing he'd hit it as he retreated, took every drug I had to boost my damage and increase damage resistance, among other things, whipped out the brush gun, and pumped 8 shots into the Legate. Those 8 shots, from the second most powerful rifle in the entire game, only knocked off about 60% of his health. But he ran away, as I anticipated. After he made his move against me, New Vegas finally found its moment to f*** me. I entered VATS to get a headshot on a guard, and the game locked me in VATS with no way to move. I was sure that was it. The game was over, but I slipped Lady Luck a crisp $5 bill. She helped me out, and I survived, barely. Now, I did have to take a bunch of stim packs and use a couple doctor's bags to get my health to restore itself fast enough to offset the massive amounts of damage I was taking. But I still managed to blow the Legate's head off. The remaining Legion vets had me worried a bit. Oftentimes, it's not the Legate that gives me trouble, it's cleaning up the scraps. However, I still had a good amount of ammo left and plenty of stim packs, so it wasn't too bad. All that was left to do was deal with General Oliver. I made sure to stick myself with as many healing syringes as I could handle before the conversation started to keep my spirits up as his men filled my body with lead. It worked like a charm, and I beat Fallout New Vegas with only 1 life, but also without reloading any saves, and, arguably more importantly, without the game crashing. That's right, I only saved in case the game crashed, and it didn't crash 1 f***ing time. Fallout New Vegas has a lot of weapons in it. For most of those weapons, you can find some situation where they're going to be useful, but there are some weapons that you were never meant to touch in the first place. Can you beat Fallout New Vegas with only Misfortune's Bad Luck Bringer? No, you can't. The Bad Luck Bringer is a weapon used exclusively by Misfortune on the rare occasion she spawns in to lend a hand after you attack something in VATS while having the Misfortune perk, which you can't get until level 10. But her gun is really cool and I want it, so I'm gonna spawn it in and have a field day with it. Despite the incredibly unique attributes this weapon has, it's still a gun, so the special stats are based around maxing out agility, to get a nice head start in the gun skill, intelligence for experience points, luck for both the casinos, and additional points across all skills. Charisma is a dump as always, and the rest are spread out evenly. Skills were guns, lockpick, and sneak. No speech because I'm not a little unless I want to be or am on accident. My traits were skilled, you already know why, and trick or discipline. In retrospect, that last trait, which increases accuracy by 20% while decreasing fire rate by 20%, was a massive mistake. Then came the cheating. The cheating. My favorite part of every children's activity book. I took it upon myself to do a big cheat this time. On top of giving myself the Bad Luck Bringer, its full name is Misfortune's Bad Luck Bringer, but that's a f***ing mouthful. I also gave myself 15 44 Magnum rounds. Sure, I could have ran all the way out to the gun runners, sold the items I got from the DLC packs for some 44 ammo, and instant transmissioned myself back to Good Springs. But I didn't do that. Instead, I dropped the most valuable weapons and armor I got from previously mentioned DLC packs, worth about 2,800 caps in total, in exchange for 15 bullets. I'm pretty good at the whole bartering thing. I knew this was a 100% fair trade. Oh, to make this feel more realistic, I also gave myself Misfortune's outfit and hat, which I'd use as my only armor throughout the game. And at last, after drifting out at sea for so very long, our nasally hero finds himself washed up on Real Game Island. I'm gonna put up a screenshot of everything the Bad Luck Bringer does for 5 seconds, so pause the video if you want to read the whole thing, but I'm still gonna summarize it anyway. To summarize it quickly, every time you attack something, a fortune value is randomly determined. Depending on the score, one of a few things can happen. It can knock them down for 10 seconds, detonate an explosive that's in their inventory, which can also be triggered by plasma-based weaponry, a grenade launcher, or incinerators, or it can shatter any of their limbs. As you've seen by me attacking Chet as a test, the damage output is horrible, but it's a hell of a weird gun. Not as weird as the objects in the cabinet just floating there, but that's beyond my purview. Speaking of things not being there, the mods weren't there anymore after the game crashed and I removed them all. Despite what I said earlier about the gun runners, they were still my main destination for the current moment. I wanted all the ammo in the world. I did stop to test out my toy on a Deathclaw, and it amazingly worked better than expected. It knocked the bitch out. Things got a little bland as I got closer to the strip. Not sure what that's about. Maybe it was the game attempting to match the HUD color, because everyone knows green is the correct HUD color for New Vegas. Anyone who says otherwise needs immediate psychiatric help. At the gun runners, I bought 24 regular bullets, 28 hollow points, and 60 bullets that have to wear a helmet. From there, it was back to Good Springs to drop shot a few bottles, speak to the townsfolk about the upcoming battle, and let the games begin. On my way to see Ringo, I realized something awful. Despite this being a .44 revolver, you can only use standard bullets with it. No hollow points or specials work. I even tried spending all my bullets on Ringo to see if running out of ammo would make the other bullets automatically be loaded, but they didn't. Then I reloaded a save to rip Ringo back from the loving arms of Mother Death and took the fight to the Powder Gangers. Even on easy, I got my ass handed to me. I actually died, which isn't supposed to happen. Once I'd punted the difficulty back down to very easy, the battle went smoother than expected. From there, I knew what I had to do. I still needed ammo. I didn't want to be pussyfooting around like some drunk toddler who's saving his bullets for his father. As far as I know, there are no convenient exploits that can get you absurd amounts of ammo in very little time. But there is a method to be used here. Step 1. Travel to 188 Trading Post. to buy some bullets from the gun runner, then head to Prim to buy more from Mr. Nash. An unfortunate thing happened there. The inhabitants were not fans of me stealing their stuff so brazenly. As I fired into the crowd of people, I noticed that the bad luck bringer can send multiple people flying if they're huddled together. In the process of knocking them on their asses, they drop their weapons, which is wonderful because then it's you with a gun against people who can only throw hands. But their bodies can get a little weird when they go all flaccid. It took more than half my ammo to end them all, except for Fisto's cousin. I left him alive so he could live with the pain of knowing he couldn't protect anyone. And because he didn't attack me, I'm not gonna kill something that can't fight back. Not again. The one bad thing about ripping the guns out of their hands is that they break when they hit the floor. Also, what's the politically correct way to say this? I shot a kid. I sent that little bitch to the moon, and for the briefest of moments, I thought I'd killed him. Then, just for shits and giggles, I added some dynamite to his inventory and made him explode. It hurt me more than it hurt him. I stopped by a casino to gamble my way to success. No reason to spend too much time talking about it. I gambled until I had me about 11,000 chips, which I then converted into caps through the power of photosynthesis and got to work on my plan. All I did was go back and forth between the gun runners, the Mick and Ralph guy who sells ammo, and the little idiot at 188 Trading Post. Then wait for several days for them all to restock, then do it again. Took quite a long time. Wasn't very fun to do, spent about 7,800 caps in the process, but I eventually built my way up to 1,000 rounds of 44 bullets, and the real game could finally begin. Eager to see this thing in real action, I entered the hotel in Prim to do what us gamers refer to as a terrorist attack. It was pretty interesting. I even seemed to kill Sonic at one point. This flame kept running across the floor, but it was so quick that I couldn't make out exactly who it was. At level 4, I took the Black Widow perk to have some fun with a certain gentleman later on, continued my rampage through the hotel, discovered that repairing a broken gun with a few other broken guns gives you a gun that barely works. Science truly is amazing, and returned to the casino to see about getting some law and order in Prim. The only people left alive are Beagle and the robot, but the town really needs a sheriff. Don't want things to get out of hand. Turns out that by accidentally killing everyone, the quest can't be completed, and if we can't keep things civilized, there's no reason for anyone to be left alive. But it was all worth it. I had fun blasting Prim Slim all over the building. I then set off for Boulder City to bother someone else. I wanted to see how far away you can be and still trigger the crybaby who lost his brother in the war. You can do it from pretty far away, and he never stops coming after you. He's like an immortal snail that's hell-bent on ending your life, or Victor, trying to say howdy. You can run, but you can't hide. In my desperate attempt to evade him, I had another idea for a challenge, a simpler one. Go to the memorial, piss off the loser, and beat the game without him talking to you. Someone who isn't me should do that. I was hoping to get him to follow me into the Great Khan's hideout inside the city to see if something funny would happen, like someone getting killed. Didn't happen, so I resorted to my own form of violence. And let me tell ya, the Great Khans are some tough motherfuckers. Took about 25 shots to kill the two of them. Then I blew my own mind by falling for the lie I just told. Private Kowalski followed me inside, but didn't come to my aid when the bullets started flying and my life was nearly drained from my body. Well, he might have. I was too busy cowering in fear to see what was going on. With a destination ingrained in my brain like scar tissue, I set off for the tops to finally deal with Benny. I let him f me. Then, I really had no idea what to do. For some reason, I assumed Benny was gonna leave the platinum chip behind, because I usually do get paid for this sort of thing. So I went ahead and spoke to the big man in the sky to see what words of wisdom he had for me. He sent me on a course, the fort. I'd get there eventually, I just had a few other things to take care of first. See, the NCR has invited me to the embassy for a surprise birthday party. My present was manual labor in the form of dealing with the boomers. A few Brahmin looked at me funny, so I sent them to the big cattle farm in the sky, blew off one of George's legs, immediately got bombarded by karma, and spoke to Pearl about how to help. My first task was to put on my rubber mittens and perform surgery. Dr. Paul knows all about the medicine. A couple months ago, I accidentally cut a and had to clean up all the blood. It was a traumatizing experience. The next stop in my quest to drown the world in bad luck took me off the beaten path to rough up some insects. They died beautifully, almost as beautiful as when I stomped on all their babies. At some point, I listened to a children ramble on about history, which allowed me to finally set sail for adventure and swim down to the bottom of a lake to raise a plane like Lazarus. With Pearl and the boomers under my belt, I returned to the strip, told the crock of what I'd done, and went to find a way to shut down the Kings. I really didn't feel like doing their quest line, Luckily for me, drugs are going to save the day once again. In the old Mort Fort, I learned that our friend Pacer is allergic to Psycho. All it takes is one little dose safely lodged inside his inhaler, and he's as good as dead. I did the right thing. The Christian thing to do, really. Who knows how unpleasant his death was, but if nothing else, he had a clear nose as he passed on into the next life. And that's a luxury not all of us get. As I continued to trick the NCR into thinking I was on their side, I was ordered to report to Hoover Dam for a new mission: exterminate the Great Khans. Ammo is now something that effectively doesn't matter. The quartermaster sells bullets by the hundreds. I had to take the long way to Red Rock Canyon. Well, I didn't have to, and having a gun that knocks out anything it touches probably would have been a good tool against the giant feral butterflies, but I'm a man after my own heart. I'll inconvenience myself, waste time, and annoy myself for no other reason than the fact that I can. I went ahead and took out Cook as I got closer to Red Rock. He exploded real good, and I sent a bunch of bitches flying when I stormed into Violet's compound to exterminate her and her puppies. There were snouts and tails and teeth and legs all over the place by the time I was done with them. Violet even did a flip. It was great. So great, in fact, that it crashed the game. Not wanting to go through that again, but still wanting to kill something, I took my frustrations out on a horde of bighorners. They were the pins, I was the ball, and I got strike after strike after strike. I even got some wacky animations, just like you would in a real bowling alley. But wait, there's more. The killing doesn't stop there, because I entered Papa Khan's house and got to work, ending all their lives. It took a lot longer than you'd think this sort of thing should, but confined spaces are where this weapon really shines. You're effectively God, but being God doesn't stop with the effects of the gun. It extends to the very weapon itself as well as your armor. Because you are not supposed to have this weapon or the armor, it does not degrade. You don't have to repair it or maintain it or anything. Back in the strip, I was told to infiltrate the Omerta crime family and destroy them from the inside out. All it took was a little bit of dirt, and I was able to use Cachino like my own personal hand puppet. The Omertas were up to something nefarious, some real f***ed up shit. I don't recall exactly what it was. Had something to do with boxes, I think. Maybe trying to disrupt the cardboard box industry. Who knows? What's important is that I put a stop to them. First, I stole their guns. Then I blew up their boxes. That pissed them off. They thought they were gonna bring me and my puppet down. But Cachino's tough. He don't die easy. I'm so indifferent towards death that I just sat on the couch and ate every bullet the boss man tossed towards me. I'm not sure what happened to Cachino. I never found his body. Some people say he never even existed in the first place. But my job there was done, and only a couple hundred more people had to die before I declared my slaughter a success. As unfortunate as it is, democracy comes at a cost. Mr. House had to go. But there's a problem. See, I don't have the platinum chip, and I kinda sorta just pissed off the entirety of Caesar's Legion. Getting that chip back was not going to be easy. I could have easily reloaded a save to right before I became their most wanted target and waltzed into the fort like I was sent by God to be Caesar's new footstool. No, too easy. I took the long, aquatic path towards Cottonwood Cove. Didn't want to cause more of a scene than I had to. Unfortunately for me, the Legion lads are a good bit tougher than anything I've faced so far. I arrived at the fort with 1,485 bullets, and by the time I dealt with the guys at the front gate, just them, nobody else, it was like 7 guys, I was down to 1,350. They were not a pushover. I mean, I pushed them over a lot, but they had spirit. They had backbone, except for when their backbone rolled out of their body as their limbs turned into limp spaghetti noodles. But you get what I'm trying to say. I ignored most of the others on my way to Caesar's tent. I f***ed with a few of them, but not too much. Now Caesar's tent, that was quite a place. Real awful, real terrible, just a bad experience overall. Silver linings and whatnot, it's a confined space, which as I've said is where the gun comes alive. You may not believe me when I say this, but these few Praetorian guards were quite possibly the hardest to kill creatures I've ever faced in a challenge. It took nearly 400 shots to kill them all. It took almost 10 minutes of constant shooting to end their lives, even after discovering that I could sit in a corner and blow them all away before they had a chance to get near me. Even when I was reloading, it still took so f***ing long, and after it was all said and done, I couldn't remember where I'd gotten the platinum chip, whose body it came from, or when I got it. I went so far as to reload a save to make sure I didn't have it all along, which I didn't, so this wasn't a complete waste of time. After that unpleasantness, killing a wrinkled old man was like stealing candy from a corpse. Then came something even easier, destroying the Brotherhood of Steel. I could have killed them. Maybe. If I hadn't exhausted myself laying waste to the Legion's upper management, I might have attempted it. Instead, I didn't. I used a worthless tool to open the door, bought some stim packs for the upcoming war, lifted the 3 key cards out of the pockets of those stupid enough to let me in, activated the failsafe, turned the key, ended them all, returned to the Hoover Dam, and readied myself to protect the president. Protecting people isn't really my thing. I remembered that there's a sniper guy up in one of the towers who had nothing good planned for the president. I just kinda loitered around for a bit, doing next to nothing, until I got this feeling deep inside that something bad was about to happen. Might have been my liver crying for help, but I assumed it wasn't. Executed the terrorist atop the tower, saved the president, his vertibird blew up. But it wasn't my fault because, like I've said, I've been tricking the NCR this entire time. With the remains of the president scattered all over the dam, the time had come for the end of the line, the second battle of Hoover Dam. The battle in the inwards of the dam was alright, I guess. My general tactic was to knock the Legion soldiers on their asses, to get rid of their weapons, so my comrades could attack them with their real weapons that actually hurt people. Unfortunately, the NCR troopers sometimes got in my way and got flogged alongside the enemy. Then again, if they're stupid enough to get in my way, they might as well be my enemy. Outside, atop the dam, I surprisingly used that same tactic. Though because we're out in the open and, several stories above the ground, I could occasionally send a Centurion over the edge to their demise. The second half of the push through the dam went better than expected. The NCR Rangers pulled their weight, and I only accidentally killed a few of them. Now, the Legates camp was not great. I was pretty annoyed that none of the Rangers followed me inside, so I had to do all the work myself. Something I'm not used to. I wouldn't describe the first bit as hard, just time-consuming as Psycho and Med-X did help, but only a little. Psycho might make you do 25% more damage, but going from 10 damage per shot to 12 and some change is effectively worthless. It wasn't long before I decided to just face the entirety of the Legate's forces all at once. My initial shot on the Legate burst him into flame and knocked him on his ass. The next few shots did big damage to the 2 Rangers who come to my aid. Amazingly, I was able to knock the sword out of the Legate's big meaty claws, but I think it annoyed the guards because they were f***ing relentless, and some spineless slime ball was shooting me from somewhere I couldn't see. Soon enough though, I got myself into a corner that provided me with a good amount of safety. Guys run towards me, I knock them off the cliff, rinse and repeat for hundreds of rounds. Then I turned the Legate into a firework and got a home run with someone's body. This was definitely one of the more interesting bouts against Lanius. This was probably the most costly confrontation from a standpoint of bullets. When the war began, I had about 1,200, and by the time General Oliver arrived to congratulate me on a job well done, I'd chewed through more than half of my total supply of bullets. But it was all worth it, because I beat Fallout New Vegas with only misfortune's bad luck bringer.